My name is Brielle Dawson. I'm 27 years old, and I didn't realize my relationship could be insulted to death in under a minute until my boyfriend posted that he was single while he was still living in my apartment, sleeping in my bed, eating the groceries I bought like commitment was a meal plan. It happened on a Tuesday. Ordinary, forgettable, the kind of day that should have stayed small. I was on my lunch break, half listening to coworkers talk about weekend plans, thumb scrolling Instagram, the way people do when they're bored and trying not to think too hard about their life. Then I saw it, a warm, artsy photo, his morning latte, some minimalist quote graphic, soft beige filters. The kind of post that pretends it's about self-love when it's really about attention. Eli Carter, 26, my boyfriend of 3 years, the man I moved in with a year ago because we'd already spent so much time at each other's places it felt pointless paying for 2 lives. His caption said, "Single until someone earns my love. I'm a king who deserves the best." I stared so long my screen dimmed. I wasn't confused. Confusion is when the facts don't fit. This fit too perfectly. Because for weeks, months if I was honest, Eli had been moving like someone who wanted the benefits of being taken and the thrill of being available. More boys' nights. More time in the bathroom with his phone. The casual way he'd flip it face down when I walked by, like I was a cop and he was hiding contraband. And the little remarks. They always came wrapped in a laugh, which made them worse. "You're so settled, Bri. Like, you're already married to your routine. You never do anything spontaneous anymore. You don't really try, you know." As if I hadn't tried. As if I hadn't planned date nights after long shifts. As if I hadn't bought him small gifts just because I saw something he'd like. As if love wasn't something I showed in 100 quiet, boring ways. But apparently, boring effort didn't hit like strangers tapping a heart button. So I did the only thing that felt sane in that moment. I didn't cry. I didn't message him privately like I was begging for the dignity he'd already thrown online. I commented. 2 words. "Best of luck." My thumb hovered for half a second before I hit post, because some part of me still wanted to give him a chance to delete it first, to claim it was a mistake. But the second I hit send, something in my chest went calm. Not healed, not okay. Just coldly clear. Within 30 seconds, I went into my own profile, changed my relationship status to joyfully single, tagged him, and made it public. If he wanted the aesthetic of being unattached, I was happy to match the vibe. His post disappeared in under a minute. Which told me everything. Not that he'd regretted it, just that he'd gotten caught. My phone lit up like a fire alarm. Call after call after call. Eli. Eli again. Eli again. Then unknown numbers. Then a message from Tara, his friend I'd met maybe 4 times, always loud, always smiling too hard like she was auditioning for loyalty. I didn't answer. I finished my lunch. I went back to work. I did my job like my life wasn't quietly rearranging itself. Because here's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't always feel like heartbreak first. Sometimes it feels like insult. Like someone looked at everything you built together and decided it was worth less than a caption. When I got home that evening, the apartment felt different before I even saw him. Not physically. The couch was still the same. The throw blanket still draped over the arm, like I'd left it that morning. But emotionally, it felt like someone had opened a window in winter and let all the warmth bleed out. Eli was already there, on the couch, arms folded, jaw set like he was preparing for court. He didn't look guilty. He looked offended, like I'd embarrassed him, as if my pain was a PR problem. "What was that stunt?" he demanded the second I stepped inside. I set my keys down slowly, took off my shoes, hung my bag like I wasn't about to have my reality argued into something smaller. "Which part?" I asked, calm enough to scare myself. "You announcing you were single online, or me agreeing with you?" He exhaled like I was exhausting. "It was just a quote, Brielle. Every guy posts stuff like that. Every guy in a relationship posts that they're single." He rolled his eyes, and it was such a familiar gesture I almost hated myself for once finding it charming. "You're overreacting. It didn't mean anything." "Cool," I said. Then my response didn't either. That made him stand. He paced once, like he needed movement to manufacture authority. "You publicly shamed me." "You publicly erased me," I corrected. "I just didn't pretend I didn't notice." His face tightened. "You always do this. You take something small and you make it a whole drama." I looked at him, really looked. And my stomach sank, not from fear, but from recognition. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a man testing what he could get away with. He grabbed his bag from near the door, like he'd staged it earlier. "I'm staying at Tara's tonight," he said. "Maybe you'll see how ridiculous you're being when you calm down." I nodded once. "Take your time." The door slammed, the sound echoing down the hallway like punctuation. And then, silence. No sobbing, no collapsing. I ordered wings and put on a movie I didn't care about because my body didn't know what else to do with the energy. 10 minutes in, my phone buzzed again. Tara. Wow, real mature. Real men don't act petty online. I stared at the message, then typed back. Real boyfriends don't pretend to be single on social media. A few seconds later, blocked. I almost laughed. Then Eli's mom called. Margaret Carter had the kind of voice that could sweeten poison. I let it ring, and ring, and ring. On the 7th call, I answered. Betrayal, honey, she said immediately, like we were close, like she hadn't only ever spoken to me when she wanted something to go smoothly for her son. What's happening? Eli is heartbroken. I leaned back on the couch and stared at the ceiling. He posted that he was single, I said. I just confirmed it. Oh, sweetheart, Margaret sighed, the way people sigh when they're about to excuse something unforgivable. You know how social media is. It's just fun. It's just a quote. Is flirting with other women fun too? I asked. What? Eli would never... I didn't say he did, I cut in, still calm. But posting that you're single when you're not is basically advertising, right? Margaret went quiet, a long, uncomfortable pause. Then she chose her side. You need to apologize, she said, softer now. He's upset. I let that sit between us. Margaret, I said gently, I'm the one who just found out I'm dating a man who wants strangers to think he's available. That's not what he... It's what he posted. Another pause. And then a new notification lit up my screen, this one from Nate. My friend Nate worked at the same ad agency as Eli. He wasn't dramatic. He wasn't gossipy. So when he texted, I felt my stomach drop before I even opened it. Nate, yo, heads up. Eli's been having lunch with the new account exec Marissa every day this week. They look cozy. Marissa, the woman Eli had mentioned 2 months ago, casually, like she was nothing. She gives me weird vibes, he'd said, smirking. Total attention seeker. I stared at Nate's message until the words blurred, because suddenly the single post wasn't just a caption. It was a door he'd been unlocking for a while. And now I was standing on the other side, finally hearing the click. I didn't respond to Margaret. I didn't call Eli back. I opened Instagram again, and with hands that didn't shake nearly as much as they should have, I typed Marissa's name into the search bar. If Eli wanted to play single, fine. I was about to learn exactly what he'd been doing with his freedom. I didn't sleep much after that. Not because I was sobbing into a pillow or staring at the ceiling like the movies. It was worse than that. I lay there in the dark with my body perfectly still, while my brain replayed every moment from the last few months like it had been collecting evidence without telling me. The I'm just tired when I leaned in for a kiss. The way he'd smile at his phone and then glance up too fast like he'd been caught enjoying himself. The sudden obsession with looking hotter, dressing sharper, getting haircuts more often. And the way he'd been slowly, quietly training me to doubt my own instincts. I opened Instagram and searched Marissa's profile. Her page was public. Of course it was. The kind of public that screamed confidence. Sleek gym selfies, rooftop cocktails, a work hard, glow harder aesthetic. The caption voice was all empowerment and hustle and soft menace. I scrolled until I found it. Eli's likes. Not just a few. Not casual. It was consistent. Every post for the past 3 months. Especially the early morning gym pictures. Especially the ones designed to bait attention. And then I saw something that made my throat tighten in a way I didn't expect. He'd commented on one. A fire emoji. Nothing more. But it felt like a handprint on my relationship. I took screenshots. Not for revenge. Not because I wanted to expose him to the internet. Because I'd already learned something brutal. When people plan to rewrite the story, you save the original draft. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again. Eli, ready to talk like grown-ups? The wording made my jaw clench. Like I was the child. Like he was being generous by offering me conversation after publicly announcing he was single. I stared at the message and typed back before I could second-guess myself. Me. Sure. Should I invite Marissa, or is this just us? I watched the little scene bubble appear. Then nothing. No denial. No outrage. No, who told you that? Just silence. The kind of silence that doesn't mean innocence. It means strategy. By morning, I'd gotten used to the quiet. The apartment felt clean without him. Not physically. His shoes were still by the entryway, his hoodie still hanging over the chair like a ghost of comfort. But the air felt less crowded, and that scared me. Because it meant I'd been carrying weight I didn't even realize was there. I went to work, took meetings, answered emails, smiled at the right moments like my world hadn't shifted. Then, around 4:30 p.m., my phone buzzed. Margaret, we're coming by tonight to talk. This has gone too far. Not a request. A declaration. Like my apartment was a family conference room. I didn't respond. I got home around 6:15, and at 6:27 the knock came. Not a soft knock. A firm, coordinated knock. Like they'd rehearsed it in the car. I opened the door, and there they were. Eli in the center, arms crossed, like a man preparing to be wrong with confidence. To his right, Tara, loud energy wrapped in righteous anger. To his left, his sister Lauren, older, polished, the kind of woman who could make judgment sound like concern. And behind them, Margaret, clutching her purse like it was a weapon. They walked in without waiting for an invitation. That should have been my first clue that this wasn't about talking. This was about control. Eli stood in the living room and looked around like he owned the place. Like he hadn't just tried to declare himself single on the internet and then disappear to a friend's couch when I didn't accept it quietly. Margaret sat first. Tara didn't sit at all. She hovered, arms folded. Lauren took a seat like she was about to moderate a hostage negotiation. Eli stayed standing. Of course he did. Brielle, Margaret began sweetly, like she was about to say something kind. This has gotten out of hand. I leaned against the kitchen counter, not offering anyone a drink, not offering anyone comfort. What part? I asked. Tara scoffed. You humiliating Eli online. I blinked. He humiliated himself. Lauren tilted her head, that practiced expression of empathy that always comes with conditions. You're fixating on the wrong thing, she said. It was a quote, a stupid post. It doesn't mean he doesn't love you. Eli finally spoke, voice tight. You didn't have to tag me. I let out a small laugh that surprised even me. You didn't have to post that you're single. It wasn't, he started. Don't, I cut in, still calm. Don't rewrite it. Eli's jaw flexed. Tara stepped forward. Real women don't act petty like that, she snapped. You could have just talked to him privately. And real men don't act available while they're still living with their girlfriend, I said. That made Margaret's expression crack for half a second. There it was, the truth trying to peek through. But then she recovered. Eli made a mistake, she said firmly. A small one, and you're turning it into something it's not. Lauren chimed in, smoother. He's been under stress. Work is intense. He feels like you've both gotten comfortable. Comfortable. That word again. Like stability was a crime. Eli looked at me like I was supposed to feel guilty for being reliable. And then, suddenly, he didn't look angry anymore. He looked wounded, which was terrifying. Because wounded is a costume. He lowered himself onto the edge of the couch and put his face in his hands, like a man trying to appear devastated. Then he lifted his head and his eyes were glossy. Not soft tears, not remorse. Angry tears. The kind that mean, how dare you make me deal with consequences? You ruined everything, he choked out. Margaret immediately leaned toward him. Baby. No, Eli snapped, then looked right at me, voice sharp. Marissa won't even talk to me now. The room went silent. My stomach didn't drop. It solidified, like a door finally clicking shut in my mind. I stared at him. So, you admit there was something. Eli's eyes widened, like he realized he'd said too much. No, he rushed. We were just friends, but she was interested, and now she thinks I'm toxic because you had to be dramatic. Tara nodded, like that made perfect sense. Lauren's lips pressed together as if I had embarrassed the family. I took one slow breath. So, I said, voice calm enough to sound cruel, you were enjoying her interest while you were still with me. Eli's face twisted. I wasn't going to do anything. Yet. He slammed his hand onto his knee. I just like the attention. Is that so bad? Yes, I said. Next question. Margaret gasped like I'd slapped him. Lauren leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Brielle, you're being cold. No, I said, I'm being accurate. Eli stood up again, pacing, voice rising. You don't understand what it's like to feel stuck, like you're in a relationship that isn't growing. I laughed once, sharply. You want growth? You could have tried therapy. You could have communicated. You could have broken up like an adult. Tara threw her hands up. Oh my God, you're so self-righteous. Funny, I said, I feel the same about you. Lauren exhaled like she was about to reveal the real purpose. And she did. Look, she said, tone shifting into practical. This is clearly emotional, but we need to be realistic. Eli needs to stay here until he finds another place. I stared at her. For a second, I genuinely wondered if I'd misheard. You mean in my apartment, I said slowly. Lauren nodded like it was obvious. He can't keep crashing on Tara's couch, Tara added quickly. It's not sustainable. Margaret leaned in, voice gentle but firm. Honey, you can't just throw him out. You've been together 3 years. I felt something hot move through my chest. Not heartbreak. Not jealousy. Anger so clean it felt like oxygen. I'm not throwing anyone out, I said. Eli scoffed. Then what are you doing? I looked at him, and for the first time since this began, I let my voice sharpen. You left, I said. Remember? You walked out to teach me a lesson. And now you're trying to walk back in because Tara's couch got uncomfortable. Tara started to protest, but Lauren cut her off. Brielle, don't be petty. I'm not petty, I said. I'm done. Eli's face hardened. Margaret's voice rose. This is unbelievable. We were planning Thanksgiving. I blinked. You can still have Thanksgiving. I'm just not hosting your son while he auditions for his next girlfriend. Margaret flushed. Lauren's eyes narrowed. And Eli, who'd been quiet for 2 seconds, suddenly smiled. A cruel smile? Fine, he said, but I'm taking everything I bought for this place. I shrugged. Go for it. That's when the performance became a tantrum. He tore through the apartment like a storm. He unplugged the blender. Fine, he'd bought it. He yanked the bathroom rug out like he was stripping the house of comfort. Weird, but okay. Then he started taking the batteries out of the remotes. I stared at him. Tara even looked embarrassed. Lauren muttered, Eli. He ignored her, fueled by the need to punish. Then he reached for my Xbox. My Xbox, I corrected. I contributed, he argued. You bought one game, I said. FIFA. Take FIFA. Leave the console. Eli's face went red. He grabbed the game case and threw it into his bag like it was a trophy. Margaret looked like she wanted to defend him and also wanted to disappear. They left with trash bags full of his things, no boxes, no dignity. At the door, Eli turned back. His eyes locked on mine. You'll regret this, he said quietly. The threat landed like cold water. No one else will deal with your dull ass, he added, voice low and venomous. I didn't flinch. I'll take my chances, I said. They slammed the door, and the apartment went silent again. But this time, the silence didn't feel like loss. It felt like space. I stood there, staring at the door, when my phone buzzed. A notification. Eli's Instagram story. I shouldn't have opened it. I did anyway. A black screen with white text. Sometimes the garbage takes itself out. Next slide. Leveling up in every way. Then the last one. A photo of Eli at a wine bar, arm angled like he was close to someone, captioned, Fresh starts, better vibes. And tagged at a location I recognized instantly. Because my cousin Riley worked there. My phone buzzed again. Riley. Bree. Your ex is here, with some girl, and he keeps talking about you. I stared at the message until my hands went cold, because I knew what was coming next. Eli didn't just want to move on. He wanted to make me the villain in the story of his glow-up. And now he was doing it in public. Again, I stared at my phone long after Riley's message came through. Not because I was surprised, but because some ugly, quiet part of me had already known. Your ex is here, with some girl, and he keeps talking about you. That was the part that made my jaw tighten. Not that he'd moved on fast, not that he'd gone public, but that even on a date meant to announce his fresh start, he still needed me as a prop. I typed back, me, talking how? The reply came almost instantly. Riley, comparing, complaining, like, a lot. It's weird. I exhaled slowly and set my phone face down. I told myself not to spiral, not to imagine, not to care. But curiosity is a muscle betrayal strengthens. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Riley. Okay, this is wild. He keeps saying stuff like, Brielle never took me to places like this. Then when his date pushed back, he said you were intimidated by successful people. I laughed. Out loud. A sharp, humorless sound that startled me in my own kitchen. I had taken him to places like that. He'd called them snobby. I earned more than him. He'd joked that it made him uncomfortable. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was revisionist history in real time. Another message. Riley, now he's saying you were emotionally abusive, showing her texts. My stomach dropped. Not because I felt guilty, because I knew exactly which texts he meant. The ones where I'd finally asked him to contribute to rent after 6 months of I'll get you next month. The ones where I'd said, I need a partner, not a dependent. In Eli's mouth, accountability became control. Boundaries became abuse. I typed with steady fingers. Me, how's she reacting? A pause. Then, Riley, uncomfortable. She asked questions. He's getting louder. I closed my eyes. I could picture it perfectly. Eli leaning forward, lowering his voice like he was confessing trauma, painting himself as the wounded one. Me as the villain who couldn't handle his shine. Another buzz. Riley. She just left, early. He paid for his own drinks only. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Good. But then, Riley, wait, now he's hitting on me. I snorted. Me, please tell him you're my cousin. Riley already did. A few seconds passed. Riley. He turned red, like beet red, bolted. I sank into a chair and laughed again. This time softer, sadder, Because even when the universe handed him consequences, Eli still managed to humiliate himself. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The next morning, I woke up to a notification I never expected. A LinkedIn message from Marissa. I stared at her name for a full 10 seconds before opening it. Hey, Brielle. This is awkward, but I wanted to clear the air. I didn't know you and Eli were still together when he started talking to me. He told me you'd been done for months and that you were unstable about the breakup. I'm not interested in being part of that. I've told people at work the truth I thought you should know. Also, he's been calling you emotionally abusive. I don't believe that, but I wanted to warn you. I'm sorry. I read it twice, then a third time. Not because I didn't understand, but because it felt surreal to have the truth handed back to me so cleanly. I replied with one sentence. Thank you for telling me. I appreciate your honesty. Then I screenshotted everything. Again, not for revenge, for reality. Because people like Eli don't just lie once. They lie until the lie becomes their shelter. By noon, my anger had cooled into something else. Control. So I did one thing I'd avoided for 2 years. I posted a gym selfie, nothing dramatic, no thirst trap, just me, flushed and sweaty, hair pulled back, looking like someone who existed outside of his narrative. Caption. Single life feels good. Then, because I was human, I tagged him. Within the hour, I was blocked. But not before his sister Lauren slid into my DMs. That was unnecessary. Eli is already struggling. I typed back without hesitation. So was I, when he pretended to be single while living with me. She didn't reply. 3 days passed. Quiet ones. The kind that almost trick you into thinking it's over. Then, Friday evening, I came home from work and saw 2 suitcases sitting outside my apartment door. My stomach dropped. Not from fear, from irritation. Eli was pacing in the hallway, phone in hand, eyes red like he'd been rehearsing emotion for hours. When he saw me, his face collapsed into tears instantly. Brielle, please, he said, stepping toward me. I messed up. I stopped short of the door. We can talk here, I said. His face twitched. Can we at least go inside? No. He swallowed hard, wiped his cheeks. I got kicked out of Tara's. Her roommate came back early. I nodded. Unfortunate. And Marissa told everyone at work about our date, he rushed. They're calling me a homewrecker. I raised an eyebrow. You were one. I have nowhere to go, he snapped, the mask slipping. My mom's place is too small. Lauren lives with her boyfriend, and I miss us. I crossed my arms. You miss free rent. His eyes went dark. You owe me, he shouted, voice echoing down the hallway. I wasted 3 years on you. I decorated this place. I made it a home. You made it convenient, I said calmly. There's a difference. A door across the hall opened. My neighbor Sam, mid-40s, married, permanently unimpressed, peeked out. Everything okay, Brielle? Yeah, I said, just explaining to my ex why he can't move back in. Sam squinted at Eli. Oh, he said, the one cheating with that Marissa girl? My wife saw it all on Instagram. Eli's face went crimson. I wasn't cheating, he barked. I was exploring options. Sam nodded slowly. Sure, man, and went back inside. Eli turned to me, eyes wild. You did this, he hissed. No, I said, you did. A moment passed. Then his expression shifted. Hopeful. Dangerous. I'm pregnant. I laughed. Out loud. A real laugh. No, you're not. How do you know? He demanded. Because we haven't slept together in 2 months, I said evenly. You were always too tired, remember? A security guard rounded the corner, clearly summoned by the raised voices. Eli tried one last time. You'll never find anyone like me, he screamed as they escorted him toward the elevator. That's the goal, I said. An hour later, Margaret called. How dare you humiliate Eli like that, she shrieked. He's desperate. You've ruined his reputation. He showed up uninvited and lied about being pregnant, I said. That's on him. He needs somewhere to stay. Not my problem. She inhaled sharply. If you take him back, I'll cover his rent for 3 months. I went very quiet. So, I said slowly, you're offering to pay me to date your son. Silence. That's really sad, Margaret, I added. She hung up. I thought that was the end. I was wrong. Because when people lose control over you, they don't walk away. They escalate. After the fake pregnancy stunt, I told myself it was finally over. I had receipts, I had boundaries, I had distance. What I underestimated was Eli's commitment to the performance. Because when people like him lose access to you privately, they look for an audience. 2 days later, my sister texted me a link. Lila, please tell me this isn't about you. I opened it. Eli had started a video series. On Instagram. On TikTok. Cross-posted like he was launching a brand. The title, Dating After Toxic Relationships. I stared at the screen in disbelief as he spoke directly into the camera, soft lighting, sad music layered underneath. After being in a relationship with a narcissistic partner, he said calmly, you start to see the red flags you ignored. I watched the whole thing, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to understand how far he was willing to go. Each video was 5 minutes long, rambling, vague, carefully worded. No names, just enough detail. He got upset when I expressed my truth. He tried to control how I presented myself online. He isolated me from potential connections. Translation: I wanted to pretend I was single. She didn't let me. The views were low, barely a couple hundred per video, but Eli spoke like he was addressing a stadium. Like validation would eventually arrive if he just explained himself hard enough. Then came the group chat. I was added without warning. Group name: Concerned Family and Friends. Members: Margaret, Thomas, his dad, who had been suspiciously silent until now, Tara, Lauren. 3 people I'd met once, maybe twice, at parties. Eli's message sat at the top like a summons. Eli, this is an intervention. Brielle needs to take accountability for the emotional harm she caused. I felt my pulse slow. Not spike. Slow. Because once you see the pattern clearly, panic turns into precision. Thomas was the first to speak. Brielle, he typed, you're a smart woman, but relationships take compromise. You can't just walk away when things get hard. I stared at the message, then typed back one sentence. They didn't get hard. He pretended he was single. Margaret immediately jumped in. You didn't have to attack him publicly. Lauren followed. Eli told us everything. The controlling behavior, the emotional manipulation. Tara added a thumbs up emoji. I smiled. Not because it was funny, because it was predictable. So I did something Eli never expected. I posted screenshots, one by one. His Instagram post declaring himself single. My comment. His deleted post. Marissa's LinkedIn message. Photos of his suitcases outside my door. A message from my building's security log showing the false claim that he lost his key. I didn't explain. I didn't argue. I just posted the truth. Then I typed one final message. I won't be participating in this rewriting of reality. Please don't contact me again. And I left the group. An hour later, my phone rang. Thomas. I almost didn't answer. Almost. Brielle, he said quietly. I didn't know about the Instagram post. I figured, I replied. Margaret's voice cut in on the line, apparently on speaker. You embarrassed him online. Thomas ignored her. I'm sorry, he said. Eli gets this entitlement from his mother. Why do you think I work overtime so much? The line went silent, then clicked dead. That conversation broke something open, because the fallout came fast after that. Tara showed up at this grocery store where I was picking out snacks a few days later. She looked exhausted, hollowed out. I owe you an apology, she said without preamble. I raised an eyebrow. She's staying with me again, Tara continued. Eli, he won't leave. He quit trying to find a job. Just makes videos all day. Complains about you nonstop. I said nothing. She's done this before, Tara admitted. Every relationship. Keeps backup guys. Posts flirty stuff. Then plays victim when it blows up. I enabled it. I'm done. I nodded once. Then she added, quieter, he's planning to show up at your workplace with Margaret next week. Claim you're abusive. Try to ruin your job. That got my attention. Thanks for the warning, I said. Monday morning, I walked straight into HR and explained everything. Calmly, with documentation. Sure enough, that afternoon, Eli and Margaret showed up at reception demanding to speak to my manager. Security escorted them out. HR issued a cease and desist letter. Eli's video series disappeared shortly after, likely reported for harassment when I flagged a clip that used my photo without permission. A week later, Nate texted me. Nate, Eli got fired. Missed too much work trying to be an influencer. Another update followed. Margaret and Thomas were separating. Tara changed the locks while Eli was out creating content. Lauren posted a vague Instagram story about being disappointed in family members who refuse accountability. The dominoes fell, quietly, permanently. And me? I moved on. Not dramatically, not loudly. I met Miles at my climbing gym. Easy smile, honest eyes. On our first date, he laughed and said, just so you know, my relationship status is accurate on every platform. That's when I knew he was safe. The final irony came last week. Eli posted a tearful selfie with the caption, single by choice, healing, ready for my glow-up era. Someone commented, weren't you begging your ex to take you back? He deleted it. Of course he did. Because sometimes the trash does take itself out. Sometimes it tries to sneak back in. Sometimes it claims it's pregnant. Sometimes it starts a video series. But eventually, it's just gone. And all that's left is the quiet relief of a life no longer spent defending your reality.